When Mary finally arrived, everyone rushed out to greet her. She stepped from a small sports car, her red hair shining in the sun. Jeff carried her bags inside while Alex and Donna asked about her classes. Straight A's, of course. Mary had always been that way. Jeff bit back his impatience, eager for his chance later that night. Upstairs, Mary chatted animatedly with Alex, still believing he was her mother. She went on about her new boyfriend at college, Jack Armstrong, the quarterback, of course. As she changed outfits, Alex found himself awkwardly trying to play the part of mom, listening and nodding while desperately trying not to betray how out of place he felt. What struck Alex most wasn't the details of her stories, but how grown-up Mary had become in just a few short months. Her confidence, her independence, her maturity, all of it made him realize that his little girl was no longer little. And sitting there, trapped in Donna's role, he felt a rush of emotions he couldn't put into words: pride, awkwardness, and an uncomfortable awareness that he no longer knew how to act in moments like these. Mary laughed lightly and told her mother that she should try updating her wardrobe sometime too. You'd look great in the new styles. Alex forced a smile, feeling more flustered than ever. Downstairs, Donna waited, already sensing that their secret lives were about to get even more complicated. Donna and Alex, feeling proud after a week of unexpected chaos, offered to take the family out for dinner. But Mary, home from college, insisted they go out just the two of them. You both deserve a break, she said warmly. Jeff and I can handle dinner here. As Alex and Donna went upstairs to change, Jeff cornered Mary. For over an hour, he pestered her about trying their father's invention, the learning machine. At first, she flatly refused. But Jeff wouldn't drop it. If I don't get my grades up, I'm off the team, he pleaded. This is my only chance. Finally, worn down by his persistence and eager to keep the peace, Mary reluctantly agreed. Fine, she sighed. But if we do this, you owe me. No excuses, no whining later. Jeff eagerly led her into the laboratory, replaying in his head all the instructions he had memorized from when his father had shown him the controls. The machine buzzed to life. Jeff strapped the odd-looking helmet onto his head. Mary hesitated, worried about her hair, but Jeff shot her a pleading look. Please, Mary. Just this once. Rolling her eyes, she buckled the strap under her chin. The machine hummed louder, lights flashing across the console. Jeff pressed the button. A jolt of energy filled the room. Both siblings collapsed to the floor. Jeff was the first to wake. His head throbbed, but the real shock came when he lifted his hands and saw slender arms, delicate wrists, and painted fingernails staring back at him. He gasped and nearly toppled over in a pair of unfamiliar heels. Mary's scream snapped his head around. She was staring at him in horror, but from his face. Jeff, she cried, her voice deeper than usual. Jeff tried to answer, but the words came out in Mary's soft voice. They both froze. Neither needed to explain, it was obvious. Somehow, they had switched bodies. The two screamed in unison before falling silent, their heads pounding from the strange experiment. Jeff, Mary said firmly, trying to steady herself. This was another one of your crazy ideas. Now how do we fix it? Jeff's lip trembled. I don't know. Mary sighed, fighting back frustrated tears. Then we figure it out before Mom and Dad come home. Because no one can ever find out about this. She pointed a trembling finger at her brother-now-sister. Promise me. No one. Jeff nodded sheepishly. Over the next hour, Mary gave her brother a crash course in how to carry himself as her. How to sit without looking awkward. How to walk without stomping. How to keep his expressions natural. At one point, Jeff exaggerated his hip movements so much that Mary buried her face in her hands. You look like you're trying to win a comedy contest, not walk across campus, she groaned. Jeff laughed nervously. Hey, I'll get it. Just give me time. Mary shook her head, silently praying that by morning they'd find a way to undo this mess. Until then, they'd have to fool the world and their parents into believing nothing was wrong. Donna and Alex returned home late from their evening out. They were glowing with happiness, having been treated like celebrities at the restaurant. Patrons recognized them, offered congratulations, and even the manager refused to accept payment. It had been an evening full of dancing, laughter, and kind words from neighbors. Too caught up in their joy, they barely noticed how strangely quiet their children seemed in the living room. With a few cheerful goodnights, they retired upstairs. Jeff and Mary exchanged nervous glances. If only their parents knew what had happened in the lab. Once alone, Mary resumed Jeff's crash course in behaving like a proper young lady. Jeff stumbled through balancing in heels, sitting gracefully and keeping his skirt in place. Mary sighed, exasperated, but kept correcting him. Eventually, she declared, "Enough practice for tonight. Just remember, no stomping, no slouching, and no shouting." Jeff, exhausted, agreed. They decided to sleep in each other's rooms to avoid suspicion. Jeff collapsed on Mary's lace-covered bed, still amazed by the unfamiliar body he was trapped in. Mary, now stuck in Jeff's body, sighed as she pulled on pajamas. "Tomorrow morning," she whispered to herself, "we'll find a way to fix this." The next morning, the household was buzzing again. Dr. Stone, still in Donna's body, had been called away to the hospital. That left Alex in Donna's role, humming cheerfully as he prepared breakfast for the children. Wearing one of Donna's favorite dresses and her pearls, he seemed oddly content despite everything. Jeff and Mary entered, awkward as ever. Jeff wore what Mary had carefully laid out for him, a neat sweater, skirt, and shoes that pinched his feet. He felt ridiculous, but he knew appearances mattered. Mary, dressed in Jeff's casual clothes, gave him a pointed look as if to say, "Don't blow this." At the table, Alex praised both kids warmly, oblivious to their nervous glances. Mary nudged Jeff to help with the dishes afterward. He groaned but complied, not wanting to raise suspicion. As he stood at the sink, clumsily scrubbing plates, Mary leaned back with a grin. For once, her little brother was learning what it meant to do her share of the chores. Alex noticed their unusual behavior, but simply assumed Jeff was happy to see his sister again after her time away at college. If only he knew the truth. As soon as Jeff finished drying the last pan, he collapsed into a chair. "I'll be glad when we switch back. Dishes are not for me," he muttered. The doorbell rang. Alex, still in Donna's body, went to answer it, and to Jeff's shock, in walked Scotty, Mary's old boyfriend. Scotty's eyes lit up at the sight of Jeff, who to everyone else looked exactly like Mary. "Wow, Mary, you look so sophisticated," Scotty said with a wide grin. Jeff froze. He had no idea how to handle the situation. Before he could object, Alex politely sent Scotty and Mary to the living room to catch up in private. Mary, trapped in Jeff's body, started to follow, but Alex gently held her back, assuming Scotty and Mary had old memories to discuss. Jeff sat nervously on the sofa while Scotty edged closer. "Don't act shy, Mary," Scotty teased, leaning in far too close. Jeff panicked and blurted, "I'm not that kind of girl," before clumsily shoving Scotty away. Startled, Scotty muttered an apology and left soon after. Jeff sat trembling, realizing just how close he had come to disaster. When Donna and Mary returned home, Jeff immediately pulled his sister aside and explained everything. Mary's face darkened. "When I'm back in my own body, Scotty is going to hear from me. No one talks to me like that." Later that afternoon, new trouble surfaced. Jeff reminded Mary that he had a date that night with Candy Sampson, the head cheerleader. Mary flatly refused to go in his place. But Jeff wouldn't take no for an answer. "If you don't," he threatened, "I'll call Scotty back and pretend to be you again." Mary gasped. "Jeffrey Stone, you wouldn't dare." Jeff smirked. "Try me. You don't want your reputation ruined, do you?" Reluctantly, Mary agreed. And so, that evening, she found herself nervously pulling Jeff's jalopy into Candy's driveway. Meeting Candy's strict father at the door was nerve-wracking, but she managed to answer his questions politely. When Candy finally appeared, dressed in a stylish red and white outfit, Mary couldn't deny that she understood why Jeff was so desperate. The two drove off to the local drive-in theater, where Jeff had left detailed instructions. "Be nice. Make her like me," he had insisted. At first, things went smoothly. They ordered popcorn and drinks, settled into the car, and started watching the film. But Candy soon slid closer, smiling sweetly. "It's okay if you put your arm around me," she hinted. Mary hesitated. She had never been in this situation before, at least not like this. Carefully, she draped an arm around Candy's shoulder. Candy beamed, resting her head on Mary's shoulder as the movie flickered on the screen. Mary sighed quietly. Pretending to be her brother for one night was proving far more complicated than she ever imagined. Mary, still in Jeff's body, endured a long, awkward evening with Candy. Candy wanted romance, while Mary just tried to keep the date polite and respectful. By the end of the night, Candy declared it the best date ever and insisted she wanted to go out again. Meanwhile, Jeff, now in Mary's body, felt both jealous and curious when Mary returned home. He pressed her for details, but Mary only admitted they had kissed, leaving Jeff shocked and conflicted. The next morning, the family went to church as if nothing unusual had happened. To the community, the Stones were local heroes after their recent rescues, but underneath the surface, both children were anxious. Donna revealed that the learning machine had to be dismantled for safety testing. This left Mary and Jeff panicked. They'd have to continue pretending to be each other for at least another week. That afternoon, Mary had to return to her sorority. Greta, a bold and confident redhead, offered her, actually Jeff in Mary's body, a ride back. The road trip quickly turned tense. Greta was unusually forward, paying Jeff, Mary too much attention and making suggestive comments. Jeff, totally unprepared, froze and tried to keep the situation under control without giving himself away. By the time they reached campus, Greta was convinced that Mary Stone was finally warming up to her, while Jeff realized with growing dread that his new college life was about to get even more complicated. When Jeff and Greta arrived at the sorority house, Jeff cleverly got Greta to point out Mary's room. Before leaving, Greta surprised him with a very forward kiss at the door. Flustered, Jeff slipped inside and unpacked. The room, decorated in Mary's favorite pink, reminded him just how far from his own life he now was. He changed into sleepwear and tried to calm his racing thoughts before class the next morning. That night, Jeff was startled when Greta reappeared in his room, claiming she just wanted to keep him company. Though her attention was overwhelming, Jeff tried to maintain composure, realizing that Greta's idea of friendship might be far more complicated than he expected. The following weekend, Jeff rode home with Greta again. By now, the two had grown noticeably close, though in ways Jeff wasn't sure how to handle. Donna and Alex, seeing the two hug goodbye, assumed it was simple sorority friendship. Mary, however, suspected something more. At the same time, Mary had been excelling in Jeff's role at Hilldale High. Teachers marveled at Jeff's sudden improvement, while Candy, the cheerleader, had become practically inseparable from him. Mary discovered just how persistent Candy could be whenever they studied together. Meanwhile, Donna and Alex had reached a decision of their own. Since they had failed to reverse the learning machine, they would adapt to their swapped roles. To their surprise, both had discovered unexpected confidence and even new layers of happiness in living life through each other's perspective. Mary had a date with Candy after the big football game. Donna, Alex, and Jeff cheered from the stands as Mary scored the winning touchdown. After the game, she cleaned up quickly and met Candy, taking her out for what was supposed to be a fun, celebratory evening. Later, Mary visited Candy's house, knowing her parents were away. What began as a simple afternoon together soon grew into something deeper. Mary was beginning to understand that living in Jeff's body meant experiencing life and relationships in a very different way. She wrestled with confusion, but also curiosity, unsure how far she could let things go without complicating their tangled reality even more. Meanwhile, Jeff sat with his parents in the kitchen, talking about college life. He carefully avoided mentioning Greta, not wanting them to worry. The doorbell rang. It was Scotty. Nervous but determined, Scotty apologized for his behavior the week before. His sincerity moved Jeff, and though it felt awkward in Mary's shoes, Jeff accepted. Scotty left smiling, grateful for a second chance, while Jeff reflected on how complicated living someone else's life had become. When Jeff and Mary had a chance to talk, they admitted they had little choice but to continue their masquerade for now. With the learning machine dismantled, there was no quick way back. Both secretly realized they weren't entirely sure they wanted to return to their old lives, at least not yet. Fast forward. Years later, the graduating class of 1972 marched across the stage. Mary, still in Jeff's body, accepted a diploma with pride. Donna, now director of Hilldale Hospital, had arranged for her son to continue into pediatrics. Alex, glowing with joy, helped their youngest daughter see over the crowd. Their unconventional life had become normal, even rewarding. Jeff, with long blonde hair and a stylish dress, sat proudly with his husband, Jack Armstrong, and their children. College had brought unexpected turns, love, marriage, and family, but Jeff had embraced them fully. Greta, an old friend, still visited often, though now simply part of their extended family circle. In the audience, Candy Sampson smiled the widest. She had been patient, waiting for her turn to marry Jeff. To her, Jeff's empathy and understanding made him the most remarkable partner. Her happiness was proof that even the strangest twists of fate could lead to love, family, and a future worth celebrating.